I fumbled with my keys at the front door of our Mississauga home, my hands still shaking from what I'd just discovered. Margaret was behind me, carrying our overnight bags from the cottage. We'd only been gone 2 weeks to our place up in Muskoka, 2 weeks to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. When I finally got the door open, that's when I saw it. A realtor's lockbox, hanging on our doorknob. "Bob, what is that?" Margaret asked, setting down her bag. My stomach dropped. I have no idea. I pulled out my phone and immediately opened our TD Canada Trust banking app. The retirement account we'd spent 37 years building. The account that held $285,000. Our entire future. I watched the screen load, and when the balance appeared, I felt my knees buckle. Bob, I said, that's all that was left. "Margaret," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "check your phone. Check the account." She did. I watched the color drain from her face as she stared at her screen. "This can't be right, Bob. This can't be right." I was already dialing the bank's emergency line. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. A woman answered after 2 rings. "TD Canada Trust. How may I help you?" "This is Robert Morrison. Someone has emptied our retirement account. Every penny. I need to know what happened right now." There was typing on the other end. "Mr. Morrison, I'm pulling up your account. Can you verify your date of birth and address?" I did, rattling off the information, while Margaret stood frozen in our doorway, still staring at her phone. "I see several large withdrawals over the past 10 days, the woman said. "The transactions were authorized using a power of attorney document on file." "Power of attorney?" "I never authorized any withdrawals. We've been at our cottage. I haven't been to a bank branch in weeks." More typing. "The POA on file is for a Jennifer Morrison. The withdrawals were made at various branches across the Greater Toronto Area. 3 withdrawals of $50,000, 2 of $40,000, and several smaller amounts totaling the remaining balance. Jennifer. Our daughter." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "That's my daughter. But that POA was only supposed to be used if my wife and I were incapacitated, for medical decisions and emergencies." "I understand, Mr. Morrison, but the document on file grants her authority to access your financial accounts." "I'm very sorry, but these transactions appear to have been processed correctly, according to the documentation we have." I hung up and immediately called the police. Then I called Jennifer. She didn't answer. I called again and again. On the 4th try, she picked up. "Hi, Dad." "Jennifer, what did you do?" I could hear my voice cracking. "Where's our money?" Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "I can explain." "Explain? You stole our retirement. Every dollar Margaret and I saved for 37 years. Gone." "I didn't steal it, Dad. I borrowed it. I was going to pay it back." "Borrowed it? You took $285,000 without asking. There's a lockbox on our door. Were you trying to sell our house too?" Her voice broke. "I needed to fix something. I have a plan to pay it all back, I swear." "Where are you right now?" "I'm at home." "Stay there. We're coming over." The drive to Jennifer's house in Oakville was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Margaret sat in the passenger seat, crying silently. We'd given Jennifer that POA 5 years ago when we were going in for routine surgeries, just a precaution in case something went wrong and someone needed to make medical decisions or access our accounts to pay for care. We trusted her. She was our only child. When we pulled into her driveway, I could see her watching through the living room window. Marcus's truck wasn't there. Her husband was probably at work, completely unaware of what his wife had done. Jennifer opened the door before we could knock. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Dad, Mom, please come in." "No," I said, standing on her porch. "You're going to tell us right now what you did with our money. Every detail." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Can we please do this inside?" Margaret pushed past me and walked in. I followed. The house was immaculate, as always, but I noticed things I hadn't seen before. A notice from the bank on the kitchen counter. Credit card statements spread across the dining room table. "The casino," Jennifer said, sitting down heavily on her couch. "I owe the Fallsview Casino about $180,000. My heart stopped. "What?" "It started small, Dad. A few trips to Niagara Falls with friends. I'd win sometimes, and it felt good. Then I started going more often. During the day, while Marcus was at work, I thought I could win back what I lost, but it just kept getting worse." $180,000, Margaret whispered. "How is that even possible?" "They gave me credit. A line of credit through the casino. I kept thinking the next hand would be the one. The next spin would fix everything. They sent lawyers after me last month. They were going to put a lien on our house. Marcus doesn't know. I couldn't tell him. So you stole from us instead." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You destroyed your parents to hide your gambling addiction from your husband?" I wasn't thinking clearly. I just needed to make the debt disappear before Marcus found out. Before I lost everything. "Well, now we've lost everything," I shouted. "That was our retirement, Jennifer. I'm 62 years old. Your mother is 60. We were supposed to retire next year. We had it all planned. Now we have nothing." "I'll get it back," she said desperately. "I'll work extra shifts at the hospital. I'll take out a loan. I'll make this right." "With what?" Margaret's voice was ice cold. "You just told us you owe $180,000 to a casino. Who's going to give you a loan? And even if they did, you expect us to wait another 30 years to get our money back?" Jennifer was crying now. "I'm your daughter. Please, I made a terrible mistake, but I'm trying to fix it." "By stealing from us?" I pulled out my phone. I already called the police. "They're opening a fraud investigation." Her face went white. "What?" "No, Dad, please. If they charge me, I could lose my nursing license. I could go to jail. Think about Emily and Noah. They're just kids." "I am thinking about them," I said. "I'm thinking about how their mother committed a crime and needs to face the consequences." "Bob," Margaret touched my arm. "Can we talk outside for a minute?" We stepped onto Jennifer's front porch. Margaret's hands were shaking. "I can't believe she did this," Margaret said. "Our own daughter. She stole everything from us, Maggie. Everything we worked for." "I know. But she's right about one thing. If she goes to prison, what happens to Emily and Noah? Marcus works long hours. Those kids would end up in childcare or worse. That's not our problem." Jennifer should have thought about that before she emptied our bank account. Margaret looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "I'm not saying we forgive her. I'm saying we need to think about this carefully. Those are our grandchildren." We stood there in silence for a long moment. Then I went back inside. Jennifer looked up at me hopefully. "Dad, here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to give us every single document related to this. Every bank transaction, every casino statement, everything. Then we're going to see a lawyer. If there's any legal way to get our money back, we're taking it." "Okay," she said quickly. "Yes, whatever you need. And you're getting help, real help. For the gambling addiction?" "I will, I promise." "One more thing," I said. "Pack a bag for Emily and Noah. They're staying with us until we figure this out." "What?" "No, Dad, they need to be here. Jennifer, you are not stable right now. Your children need to be somewhere safe while you deal with this mess you've created. They're coming home with us." She started to protest, but something in my face must have told her not to push it. "Let me get them from school and explain." "No. We'll pick them up. You can call them tonight once we've had time to figure out what to tell them." Margaret and I left with Jennifer's house key so we could get the kids' things later. We drove to their school and signed them out early, telling the office there was a family emergency. Emily, who was 8, asked 100 questions. Noah, who was 5, just held his sister's hand and stayed quiet. That evening, after we'd settled the kids in our guest room with a movie and pizza, I sat down with the stack of documents Jennifer had given us. Margaret sat beside me, and we went through everything together. The statements from Fallsview Casino showed a horrifying pattern. Small bets at first, a few $100s here and there. Then it escalated. Thousands. Tens of thousands. The casino had given her a credit line of $50,000 initially, which she maxed out. Then they extended it to $100,000. Then $200,000. She'd been going 3, sometimes 4 times a week. The bank statements showed the withdrawals from our account, all authorized with the POA. 3 withdrawals of $50,000 each, spaced 3 days apart. 2 more of $40,000. Then smaller amounts, $10,000 here, $15,000 there, until our account was nearly empty. She gave it all to the casino, Margaret said, her voice hollow. Every penny we saved, gone. I called David Chen, a lawyer I knew from my years working at the manufacturing plant. He agreed to see us the next morning. David's office was downtown Toronto, in one of those glass towers that always made me feel small. He listened carefully as I explained everything, occasionally taking notes. The power of attorney is the key issue here, David said. Do you have a copy of the document you signed? I pulled it out. He read through it carefully. This is what I was afraid of, he said. This POA grants your daughter broad financial authority. It's not restricted to medical emergencies or incapacitation. See this section here? It gives her the right to access and manage your bank accounts, investments, and property. But we told her it was only for emergencies, Margaret said. That may have been your verbal agreement, but legally, this document says otherwise. However, David leaned forward. The question is whether she used this authority fraudulently. You clearly didn't intend for her to drain your retirement account to pay gambling debts. That could constitute fraud or theft, even with the POA. Can we get the money back? I asked. From your daughter. If she doesn't have it, you can't get blood from a stone. From the casino? That's trickier. The casino will argue they were paid legitimately. From the bank? Possibly. If we can prove they should have questioned such large withdrawals, but that's a long shot. So what do we do? You have a few options. 1, you file a police report and pursue criminal charges. If she's convicted, there may be a restitution order. But again, if she doesn't have money, you won't see any of it. 2, you sue her in civil court. Same problem. 3, you try to work something out privately. Maybe get her to sign over assets, take out a loan, something like that. If we press charges, what happens to her? David didn't sugarcoat it. Given the amount, we're talking about fraud over $5,000, which is a serious criminal offense. She could face several years in prison. She'd almost certainly lose her nursing license. I thought about Emily and Noah sleeping in our guest room, and if we don't, then you're out $285,000, and she faces no legal consequences. Mr. Morrison, I understand this is your daughter, but this is serious. She didn't just take a few $1,000s. She wiped out your entire retirement. Margaret and I drove home in silence. That night, after the kids were asleep, we sat at our kitchen table and talked until 3 in the morning. I keep thinking about when she was little, Margaret said. Remember when she saved up her allowance for 3 months to buy you that golf club for your birthday? I remember. What happened to that little girl? I don't know, Maggie. I really don't know. What are we going to do? I'd been wrestling with this question all night. I think we have to press charges. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She'll go to prison. She committed a crime, a serious crime. If we let this go, what message does that send? That it's okay to steal from your parents as long as you're family? But the kids will be devastated no matter what we do. At least this way, Jennifer faces the consequences of her actions. Maybe it's the wake-up call she needs. Or maybe it destroys what's left of our family. We called the police the next day and gave a formal statement. The detective assigned to the case was a woman named Sarah Kowalski. She was sympathetic but professional. "I've seen cases like this before," Detective Kowalski said. "Family theft is more common than people think. The emotional component makes it complicated, but legally, it's straightforward. She used your POA to access funds without your permission for her personal use. That's fraud." The police arrested Jennifer 3 days later at the hospital where she worked. According to Detective Kowalski, she was cooperative and didn't resist. Marcus called me that night, furious. "How could you do this to her?" he shouted. "She's your daughter. How could she do this to us?" I shot back. "Did you know about the gambling, Marcus?" Silence. "That's what I thought. Your wife stole our entire retirement to pay off her casino debts. She committed a crime. We're not the bad guys here. Those are your grandchildren, Bob. What happens to them if Jenny goes to prison? They're staying with us. You can see them whenever you want. But they need stability right now, and Jennifer can't provide that." He hung up on me. The preliminary hearing was 6 weeks later. Jennifer had hired a lawyer, though I had no idea how she was paying for it. Probably more debt. Her lawyer argued that this was a family matter, not a criminal one, and that it should be resolved through mediation. The Crown prosecutor disagreed. "This isn't a case of a daughter borrowing a few $100s from her parents," the prosecutor said. "This is $285,000, taken systematically over 10 days using a legal document under false pretenses. The defendant has a gambling addiction and is in significant debt to a casino. This is calculated fraud." The judge agreed to move forward with a trial. Jennifer's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. If she pleaded guilty, they'd recommend a reduced sentence, maybe probation with community service and mandatory restitution. "What do you think?" the Crown prosecutor asked me. "What does restitution mean if she doesn't have the money?" "It means she's legally obligated to pay you back, even if it takes the rest of her life. If she doesn't comply, she violates her probation and goes to prison." "She doesn't have it," I said. "She won't have it for years, maybe decades. Meanwhile, we're supposed to just what? Wait? Hope she wins the lottery?" "I understand your frustration, Mr. Morrison, but a trial is uncertain. She could be acquitted. This way, you at least get a conviction on her record and a legal obligation to repay." I talked to Margaret about it. She was conflicted. "Part of me wants to see her punished," Margaret admitted, "but part of me just wants this to be over. The kids ask about their mom every day. Emily cries herself to sleep. This is tearing them apart." "It's tearing us apart too," I said. In the end, we told the prosecutor to reject the plea deal. We wanted a trial. We wanted the truth to come out. The trial lasted 3 days. Jennifer's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of gambling addiction, someone who needed help, not punishment. They brought in expert witnesses to talk about how casinos target vulnerable people, how addiction is a disease. The prosecutor focused on the facts, the systematic withdrawals, the amount, the use of the POA document, the fact that Jennifer had never told us what she was doing, had never asked permission, had tried to hide it until we discovered it ourselves. I had to testify. Sitting in that witness box, looking at my daughter across the courtroom, was one of the hardest things I've ever done. "Mr. Morrison," the prosecutor asked, "when you gave your daughter power of attorney in 2018, what did you intend for that document to be used for?" "Medical emergencies only," I said. "If my wife and I were incapacitated and someone needed to make healthcare decisions or access our accounts to pay for our care, did you ever authorize her to withdraw money for her personal use?" "No, never." "Did you know she had a gambling problem?" "No. If I had known, I never would have given her access to our accounts." "What impact has this had on your life?" I looked at Margaret, sitting in the gallery. My wife and I worked for 37 years. We raised our daughter, put her through nursing school, helped her buy her first house. We did everything we could to give her a good life. We were planning to retire next year. Now we have nothing. We're in our 60s, and we have to start over from scratch. Jennifer's lawyer cross-examined me, trying to make it seem like we were being vindictive, like we were punishing our daughter instead of helping her. Mr. Morrison, do you love your daughter? Of course I do. Then why are you trying to send her to prison? I'm not trying to send her to prison. I'm trying to get justice for what she did. Love doesn't mean letting someone destroy your life without consequences. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. When they came back, their verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. Jennifer's lawyer pleaded for leniency. She'd started attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings. She'd enrolled in counseling. She had 2 young children who needed their mother. The judge listened to all of it. Then he spoke. Miss Morrison, you violated the deepest trust that exists in a family. Your parents gave you authority to help them in their time of need, and you exploited that authority to steal their life savings. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was calculated, systematic theft over many days. You made multiple trips to different bank branches. You had many opportunities to stop, to confess, to ask for help. You chose not to. He sentenced her to 4 years in federal prison. I heard Margaret gasp behind me. Jennifer broke down, sobbing. Marcus, sitting on her side of the courtroom, put his head in his hands. The judge continued. I'm also ordering full restitution of $285,000 to be paid to the victims. While I understand you may not have the means to pay this immediately, you are legally obligated to make every effort to repay this debt. Jennifer was taken into custody that day. They transported her to the Vanier Center for Women in Milton. Marcus came to our house that night to see the kids. You happy now? He said to me. You got what you wanted. She's in prison. This isn't what I wanted, I said quietly. I wanted my daughter to not be a thief. I wanted my retirement money. I wanted a lot of things, Marcus. None of them involved watching my only child go to prison. The kids are asking when they can see their mom. You can take them to visit her. Just coordinate with us first. He looked at Emily and Noah, playing in the living room, oblivious to what was happening. I can't do this alone. I work 60 hours a week. I can't take care of them by myself. Then they stay with us. For 4 years? However long it takes. Marcus left without another word. 2 weeks later, he filed for divorce. He said he couldn't be married to someone in prison, couldn't handle the shame. He'd pay child support, but that was it. He didn't want custody. So Margaret and I, at 62 and 60 years old, became full-time parents again. The first few months were brutal. Emily acted out at school, getting into fights, talking back to teachers. Noah started wetting the bed. They both had nightmares. We got them into therapy, but it was slow going. Margaret had to keep working. We both did. Retirement was off the table now. We'd have to work until we physically couldn't anymore. I picked up extra shifts at the plant. Margaret took on weekend work at the library, where she'd been planning to retire from. We visited Jennifer in prison once a month. The kids went every other week with Margaret. I couldn't bring myself to go more often. Seeing her in that orange jumpsuit, in that cold visiting room, it broke something in me every time. I'm so sorry, Dad, she'd say every visit. I know sorry doesn't fix it, but I am. I'm so sorry. I know, I'd say, but I didn't know if I'd ever really forgive her. The restitution order meant Jennifer was legally obligated to pay us back, but from prison, she couldn't earn much. The prison jobs paid less than $2 an hour. She'd send us $15 or $20 a month, deposited into an account we'd set up for the kids' future. At that rate, it would take her 3,000 years to pay us back. 2 years into her sentence, something shifted. Emily started doing better in school. Noah stopped having nightmares. They'd adjusted to their new normal. They called us Mom and Dad now, though they still talked about their mother. Margaret and I had adjusted too. We'd downsized from our house to a smaller condo to reduce expenses. We'd learned to live on less. We'd let go of the retirement dreams, the travel plans, all of it. We had a new purpose now, raising our grandchildren. One afternoon, I was helping Emily with her math homework when she looked up at me. "Grandpa, do you hate my mom?" I put down my pencil. "No, sweetheart. I don't hate her. Are you still mad at her?" "Yes," I said honestly. "I'm still mad. What she did hurt us very badly. But I don't hate her. Do you think she'll get better?" "I hope so. I really do." Emily nodded and went back to her homework. Jennifer was released after serving 3 years with good behavior. She came out sober, clean, still attending GA meetings remotely while inside. She'd lost her nursing license, just as David Chen had predicted. She got a job as a medical receptionist, making a fraction of what she used to earn. She wanted to see Emily and Noah right away. We arranged supervised visits at first, once a week at our condo. The kids were nervous but excited. Noah was 8 now. Emily was 11. They'd grown up so much while she was away. "Mom!" Noah ran to her the first visit, wrapping his arms around her waist. Emily held back, more cautious. Jennifer cried through most of that first visit. She brought them small presents, drawings she'd made in prison, letters she'd written but never sent because she didn't know if we'd give them to the kids. "I'm going to make this right," she told me at the end of the visit. "I know it'll take the rest of my life, but I'm going to pay you back every penny." "Jennifer," I said, "you'll never pay us back. You know that, right? Even if you worked every day for the next 30 years, you couldn't pay back $285,000. "I know, but I have to try." She started sending us money from her new job, $200 a month. It was a tiny fraction of what she owed, but it was something. We put it in the kids' education fund. Over time, the visits became more regular, unsupervised, overnight stays. Jennifer got a small apartment in Mississauga, close to us. She never missed a GA meeting. She never asked to borrow money. She worked, she saved, she tried. Margaret forgave her before I did. I watched them rebuild their relationship slowly, carefully, mother and daughter again, though it would never be what it was. For me, it took longer. Maybe I'm still working on it. Every time I see our bank balance, I remember what we lost. Every time I drag myself to work at 65 years old, when I should be retired, I remember. But I also see Emily and Noah thriving. I see them growing into good kids, kind kids, honest kids. I see them with their mother, rebuilding that relationship piece by piece. And I think maybe there's a different kind of redemption here, one I didn't expect. Jennifer will never pay us back financially. That ship has sailed. But she's paying us back in other ways. She's being a mother to her kids again. She's staying sober, staying clean, staying honest. She volunteers now, talking to other people struggling with gambling addiction, sharing her story as a warning. Last month, on my 65th birthday, the whole family gathered at our condo. Emily made a cake. Noah helped her decorate it. Jennifer brought groceries and cooked dinner. Even Marcus showed up, something he'd started doing more often lately. After dinner, Jennifer pulled me aside. "Dad, I know I can never repay you for what I took. Not just the money, but the years, the trust, everything. But I want you to know I think about it every single day. What I did to you and Mom, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better." I looked at this woman, my daughter, who'd caused me more pain than anyone else in my life, who'd stolen my future and broken my heart, who'd also given me Emily and Noah, who called me Dad and filled my days with purpose. "I know," I said. "I believe you." And I did. It's been 5 years since I found that lockbox on our door. Margaret and I still work. We'll probably work until we physically can't. We'll never get back what we lost. And we'll never retire the way we planned. But we have Emily, now 13, and getting straight A's. We have Noah, now 10, and playing hockey in a league I coach. We have a different life than the one we imagined, but it's our life. Jennifer sends her monthly payments, $200 that we put away for the kids. She's remarried now, to a good man who knows her whole story and loves her anyway. They're rebuilding together. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't pressed charges. If we'd let it go, tried to handle it privately. Would Jennifer have gotten help? Would she have hit rock bottom some other way? I don't know. What I do know is this. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. And family isn't about protecting each other from the truth. It's about standing in the truth together, no matter how ugly it gets, and finding a way forward. We found our way forward. It wasn't the path we chose, and it cost us everything we'd saved, but we made it. We're still making it, one day at a time, with two incredible kids who call us mom and dad, and a daughter who's learning, slowly, what it means to make amends. That's not the ending I wanted, but maybe it's the ending we needed.